Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look at your source material on a financial strategy that seems to be getting a lot of attention lately, zero-based budgeting.
That's right. Yeah, it's really touching on. If you've ever felt, like your money just sort of vanishes or you're not quite sure where it all goes, this method we're digging into based on these sources, well, it aims to change that
Yeah.
completely.
It's about making every single dollar work for you,
Right.
giving it a purpose.
Exactly. Intentionality. That's the key word here.
So our mission today is really to unpack this. We'll use the sources to figure out what zero-based budgeting, or ZBB, really is, how it works, and crucially, why it might be a powerful tool for your own financial goals.
Okay, let's dive right in. What is zero-based budgeting? The core idea, and this is important, it's not like just tweaking last year's budget or even last month's.
Right.
You start from zero. Every single budget, period. Fresh slate.
Okay, hold on. Starting from zero, my first thought is, wow, that sounds like a lot of work every month, or however often you do it.
It definitely can feel that way, especially at first. But the power, according to these sources, lies in that core principle. Every dollar of income you expect, it must be assigned a specific job.
A job? Like what?
Well, it could be for an expense like rent or groceries, or it could be assigned to savings, or maybe an investment, or paying down debt. The critical part is you keep assigning jobs until your income minus all those assigned dollars equals exactly zero.
Ah, okay. So it's not just tracking after the fact, it's proactive. You're telling every single dollar where it needs to go before you spend it.
Precisely. That's the shift. And because you do that, this approach, it really forces you to critically look at every single expense. No assumptions carry over.
So you have to ask yourself tough questions.
Yeah, like, what is the actual purpose of this expense right now? And maybe more importantly, is this expense still necessary? Is this the best use of this particular dollar?
That sounds like it forces a level of awareness and discipline, maybe, that you might not get with, just glancing at your bank statement.
It absolutely does. The sources really emphasize this. It builds financial discipline, definitely.
Hmm.
Awareness, absolutely. And accountability, because you actively choose where every single dollar ends up.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The source material uses the example of like monthly streaming services. We all have them, right? Maybe 3, 4, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
ZBB forces you to list them all out and ask, okay, am I actually using this one? Is this dollar doing the best job it can for me here? If one's just sitting there, rarely watched, you cut it.
And then that money doesn't just disappear into the void.
Exactly. You consciously reassign that, say, $15. Maybe it goes towards paying off a credit card faster. Maybe it goes into your vacation fund. It's a very practical, very agile way to manage things.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. It's about making conscious choices for every dollar. So this sounds pretty intense. Where did this idea even come from?
Well, the roots, interestingly, are in the corporate world. The sources trace it back to the 1970s. A guy named Peter Peer at Texas Instruments.
Texas Instruments, really?
Yeah. He introduced it as a way for companies to basically justify every single cost center from the ground up, every budget cycle, to boost efficiency, cut waste, make sure every department's spending was really necessary.
So it started as a business tool. How
Hmm.
did it jump to personal finance?
Well, it evolved.
Oh.
Over time, especially as personal finance awareness started growing, maybe in the last, say, couple of decades, people started realizing, hey, these principles, they can work for my household budget too.
Makes sense.
And the sources point to around 2017 as a sort of milestone year.
Why 2017?
It seems that's when discussions about financial literacy and really understanding spending habits became much more mainstream. ZBB just fit perfectly as a framework for people wanting to take control. And at the same time, you also saw organizations facing maybe economic uncertainty leaning back into ZBB's corporate roots, so it gained traction on both fronts.
Okay, so we get the what and the where from. Let's get into the why. Why should someone listening consider this? The sources must highlight some key benefits, right?
Oh, absolutely. And some of them are maybe a bit deeper than you'd initially think. It goes beyond just, saving money.
How so?
Well, the first big one is enhanced financial awareness. It fundamentally changes your relationship with your spending.
Right, like that example you mentioned earlier, someone using ZBB suddenly realizes, wow, I spend that much on eating out.
Because they had to actually allocate dollars to it.
Precisely. It's not just a vague feeling. You see the number you plan to spend, and then you track against it. By analyzing every expense from zero, you uncover those hidden patterns. Impulse buys, forgotten subscriptions, areas where money just leaks.
So you get this really clear picture, like an X-ray of your finances.
Exactly. And that clarity is, well, it's transformative for making better decisions. You're operating based on facts, not just guesses or habits.
And I imagine that clarity leads straight into better prioritization. Absolutely. That's the next big benefit the sources mention. Budgeting with ZBB becomes an active exercise in setting priorities. Expenses aren't just, lines on a spreadsheet. They're categories you're intentionally funding based on what matters most to you.
So essentials first, obviously. Rent, food.
Right. You cover those non-negotiables. Then, with the dollars left over, you deliberately allocate them. Is paying down debt the biggest priority this month? Or maybe saving for a down payment? Or perhaps it's building up that emergency fund?
Or even planning for fun, right? It doesn't have to be all sacrifice.
Exactly. The source gave that example of a family prioritizing contributions to a child's education fund over, say, frequent expensive dinners out. It's about aligning spending with your actual values and goals. Not just cutting blindly, but choosing.
Choosing where your money delivers the most value for you. That makes sense.
And another benefit, which might seem counterintuitive given the structure, is flexibility and agility.
How is starting from zero flexible?
Because you do start from zero each period. If your income changes, maybe you get a bonus, or maybe work is slow one month. Or if an unexpected expense pops up, you don't just try to patch up the old budget. For the next budget period, you rebuild it from zero based on the new reality. It forces you to adapt and stay agile with your finances.
That seems really important, especially if your income isn't always the same month to month.
Definitely. And finally, a really tangible outcome mentioned is accelerated debt management and savings growth.
Because you're finding money you didn't know you had.
Sort of. Because you scrutinize every expense, you naturally find areas where you can cut back even small amounts. But crucially, those freed up dollars don't just float around. In ZBB, you give them a new job.
Like extra debt payment or boost emergency fund.
Exactly. They get actively assigned. So you're not just randomly saving more. You're strategically directing funds towards those specific goals.
Okay, wow. So profound awareness, value-driven choices, flexibility, and directly fueling savings or debt payoff. Those are pretty compelling benefits.
They really are. And they all stem from that simple core idea: every dollar gets a job.
All right, this sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? Transitioning to ZBB, it feels like it could be overwhelming. The sources must lay out some practical steps.
They do. It takes a bit of setup, no doubt, but it's about building that structure and then the habit. First step.
Yeah.
Decide on your budget, period.
Monthly, bi-weekly.
Monthly is common, yeah, because bills are monthly. But if you get paid bi-weekly, maybe that makes more sense for you. Align it with your income flow.
Okay, got the period. Then comes the maybe less fun part, gathering all the info.
Yeah. You need the data. Pay stubs, bank statements, credit card bills, regular bills, everything that shows income coming in and money going out.
Get all that paperwork together.
Then list all your expected income sources for that period.
Right.
Salary, side hustle, maybe some investment income, whatever it is. Get that total income number.
Right. And then list all the expenses. You mentioned fixed versus variable earlier.
Exactly. Break them down. Fixed expenses are the ones that are generally the same each month, like rent or a mortgage payment, car payment, insurance premiums.
Okay.
Variable expenses are the ones that fluctuate. Groceries, gas, utilities maybe, entertainment, dining out, stuff like that. Get it all down.
And then you need somewhere to put all this. A template.
Yeah. Create your budget template. A spreadsheet works great. Excel, Google Sheets, whatever you're comfortable with. Or you could use a budgeting app. Lots of them support this method now.
So, period, info, income, expenses, template.
Yeah.
That's the setup. Now, the main event, allocating the money.
Right. First, calculate that total income figure for the period. The source example was simple. Say $3,500 salary plus $500 from a side gig equals $4,000 total income.
Got it. And you've got your list of expense categories ready.
Yep, all broken down, maybe fixed. Rent $1,200, insurance $300, variable, groceries $400, transportation $150, entertainment $250. You list out your specific numbers.
Okay, so you know $4,000 is coming and you know all the places it could go. Now comes the giving every dollar a job part.
This is the heart of it. You start allocating. Prioritize the essential. Fixed costs first. Rent, mortgage, those had to be covered.
Non-negotiables.
Exactly. Then, allocate for necessary variable expenses. Got to eat, got to get to work, so food, transport, maybe basic utilities.
Okay, essentials covered. What about the rest?
Any dollars remaining after those essentials are funded. Now, you deliberately assign those dollars to your other categories based on your priorities for this period.
So this is where savings goals come in. Paying down debt. Discretionary fund money.
Yes, precisely. You allocate funds to savings goals, extra debt payments, maybe that eating out category, or hobbies, until every single dollar of your income has been assigned.
And the goal is income minus all assigned dollars equals.
Zero. Perfectly balanced. The source example showed $1,500 fixed cost plus $1,000, variable costs plus $1,500 towards savings debt equals $4,000, total income. Every penny of that $4,000 has a purpose. The budget balances to zero.
Okay, that's the setup and the core allocation. But the sources stress this isn't a set it and forget it thing, right? Tracking and adjusting is crucial.
Oh, absolutely crucial. This is where the ongoing learning and control really happen. You have to review regularly.
I will not.
Ideally, weekly, or at least check in mid-month. Compare your actual spending against what you budgeted for each category.
And if you say overspent on groceries,
Then you need to make a conscious adjustment within that budget period. Where will that extra money come from? Maybe you cut back a bit on entertainment or eating out for the rest of the month. You had to make the budget balance back to zero somehow. Or you note it and adjust next month's grocery budget.
and what if your income changes unexpectedly?
Same principle. If income goes up or down, you adjust your allocations for the next budget period accordingly. This constant cycle of planning, tracking, and adjusting is what builds that deep understanding of your financial habits over time. It makes you really aware.
It really seems like the process itself teaches you as you go.
It absolutely does. It becomes a feedback loop.
Now, doing all that tracking, it sounds like it could be a bit tedious. The sources mention tools to help.
Right, definitely. Tools can make it much easier. The classic is still a spreadsheet. Manual, yes, but very customizable. Excel, Google Sheets,
Very accessible.
for sure. And then there are dedicated budgeting apps. Some are specifically built around the ZBB philosophy. You need a budget. Or YNA is probably the most famous example.
I've heard of that one.
Mint is great for seeing the big picture once you set up your categories. Every dollar is another popular one, designed specifically for zero-based budgeting.
What about that old school envelope system? Does that translate digitally?
It does. There are apps that mimic the cash envelope system, allowing you to allocate funds into digital envelopes for different categories. Helps some people visualize it better.
So lots of options to help manage the process. Good. Now, let's be honest. This level of detail, starting from zero every time, it sounds like it could have some downsides too. The sources must talk about challenges.
They're definitely upfront about the hurdles. Probably the biggest one, especially initially, is just the time commitment.
Yeah, I figured that.
Tracking every dollar, justifying every expense from scratch. It does take time, particularly when you're first setting it up and getting into the rhythm. The sources acknowledge this people might spend several hours that first month.
That could put some people off right away.
It could. But the sources also stress that it gets much, much faster once you have your categories set up and you get into the habit of tracking regularly.
What about people with like really variable income? Freelancers, gig workers, that must make starting from zero tricky.
It absolutely adds a layer of complexity. You can't budget based on income you haven't received yet. So for variable income, the usual advice is to budget based on the previous month's actual income, or maybe a conservative average of the last few months. It requires more careful forecasting and maybe keeping a buffer.
Makes sense. And then there's the emotional aspect. Having to face your spending habits so directly, maybe cutting things you enjoy.
That's a big one too. CBB forces a really honest evaluation of needs versus wants, and letting go of some of those wants, even things you barely use but are, used to having. That can be tough emotionally.
Like that gym membership example you mentioned.
Exactly. The source shared that example of someone really struggling to cancel a gym membership they hardly ever used. It wasn't just about the $40 a month. It was about letting go of the idea of being someone who goes to the gym regularly, maybe. There could be emotional resistance.
And is there a risk of taking it too far, becoming like too rigid or restrictive?
Yes, that's another potential challenge mentioned. Some people might get so focused on optimizing every dollar that they cut out all flexibility, all fun, all spontaneity. That can lead to burnout, stress, and feeling deprived.
So finding a balance is key.
Absolutely. The sources imply that a successful ZBB implementation includes intentionally budgeting for discretionary spending, for fun, for things that bring joy. It's about conscious allocation, not just restriction.
Okay, so challenges exist, but they seem manageable with awareness. What about common misconceptions? The sources must debunk some myths about ZBB.
They do. Let's cackle a few. Myth number 1, ZBB is only for big companies.
We already know that's not true from its history.
Exactly. Totally false. While it started there, it's proven incredibly effective for individuals, couples, families. The principles scale down perfectly.
Okay, myth 2. ZBB is just too complicated for the average person.
Also false. Look, there's a learning curve, yes. It requires discipline, yes. But the core concept itself, income minus outgo equals zero, isn't rocket science. Once you get the hang of the setup and tracking, many people find it actually simplifies their financial decision-making because the plan is so clear.
Right. Myth 3. You can't adapt ZBB to your specific lifestyle or goals. It's too rigid.
Definitely false. It's actually the opposite. It's incredibly flexible because you rebuild it from zero each period based on your current priorities.
So if saving for travel is my big goal this year,
Then you allocate more dollars to the travel fund category.
all right,
If next year it's about aggressive debt repayment, you shift the allocations. You control the priorities. It adapts to your lifestyle, not the other way around.
gotcha. Myth 4. Using ZBB means you'll constantly feel deprived and can't have any fun.
Not necessarily at all. As we just discussed, if you implement it thoughtfully, you budget for fun. You intentionally allocate money for entertainment, hobbies, dining out, whatever aligns with your values and goals. It might even feel more freeing because you know you've planned for it, rather than feeling guilty about spontaneous spending.
It's intentional fun money.
Pretty much. In the last one, myth 5. ZBB doesn't work if you have unpredictable expenses pop up. False again. Dealing with unpredictable expenses is actually a strength of ZBB when done right. How? You budget for them.
Through the emergency fund category.
Exactly. You make contribute to emergency fund a regular budget category. You build that buffer intentionally within your zero-based plan, precisely for those unpredictable things of the car repair, the unexpected medical bill. You plan for the unpredictable.
Okay, busting those myths really helps clarify things. It seems much more adaptable than the name might suggest. Now, to really see the impact, the sources share some real-life success stories, right?
They do, and these really illustrate the power of it. There's the Smith family story, pretty relatable. They were living paycheck to paycheck, feeling like they had no control.
Sounds familiar for a lot of people.
Right. So they decided to try ZBB. They listed all their income, tracked all their expenses meticulously for a month, and then built their first zero-based budget, tying the allocations to specific goals, saving for a modest vacation, and finally starting an emergency fund.
And what happened?
Just by going through that process, forcing themselves to look at every dollar, they quickly found areas they could cut back without much pain, mostly reducing eating out and canceling a couple of unused subscriptions. It added up to about $300 a month.
Wow, $300 is significant.
It really is.
Yeah.
And because they immediately gave those dollars new jobs, vacation fund,
Yeah.
emergency fund, they actually saved enough for that vacation within the year, something they thought was impossible before. Just shows how powerful that intentionality can be.
That's a great personal example. What about the corporate side? You mentioned a tech startup.
Yeah, the source gives an example of a tech startup that was growing, but facing serious cash flow problems. Things were inconsistent, making planning difficult.
Okay.
So they implemented ZBB principles across the company. Every department had to justify its budget from the ground up. They audited all their spending, really questioned recurring costs, and then deliberately reallocated funds towards the things that would really drive growth key product development initiatives and targeted marketing campaigns.
So, applying that same scrutiny we talked about, but on a business scale, what was the result?
Pretty dramatic, according to the source.
Yeah.
They saw something like a 40% increase in profitability for their core product within a year.
40%.
Yeah. And importantly, they were also able to secure additional investment funding because they could clearly demonstrate this really sound, intentional financial management to investors. It shows how the same core idea scales and delivers results.
It's fascinating how the same basic principle, give every dollar a job, works so effectively in such different contexts. What are the big lessons the sources pull from stories like these?
A few key themes emerge. First, engagement is critical. If it's a family budget, everyone needs to be involved and on board. If it's a company, you need buy-in across teams.
Makes sense. You can't do it in a vacuum.
Right. Second, flexibility is essential. Life happens, circumstances change. The budget needs to be a living document ready to adapt. Don't be afraid to adjust it.
Good point.
Third, goal alignment provides the why. Connecting your budget allocations directly to clear financial goals, whether it's getting out of debt, saving for a house, or hitting a profit target, provides the motivation to stick with it.
Keeps you focused.
Exactly. Fourth, emphasize savings. Treat your savings goals like mandatory expenses. Fund them first, like you fund your rent. Pay yourself first, basically.
Smart.
And finally, continuous learning. See the budgeting process itself as a tool for learning about your habits, your priorities, your business's efficiency. Learn from mistakes, refine your approach, keep getting better.
Those are really solid takeaways. So, okay, if someone implements ZBB, they get that initial control.
No.
But how do you keep it going? How do you make it sustainable long term?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Sustaining success is all about integrating ZBB into your regular financial habits. The sources offer some good strategies here.
Like what?
Well, first, keep up with those regular reviews and updates. Schedule them. Monthly or quarterly check-ins aren't just about tracking past spending. They're about proactively adjusting the next budget. Did you get a raise? Okay, let's decide now, intentionally, where that extra income will go in next month's ZBB.
So it stays relevant?
Exactly. And you need to adjust for inflation and cost of living increases, probably annually. If groceries cost 5% more this year, your grocery budget category needs to reflect that to stay realistic.
Right. Things get more expensive.
And the sources strongly recommend creating sinking funds.
Ah, yes, you mentioned those. For predictable big expenses down the road.
Precisely. Instead of being surprised by, say, annual car insurance or holiday gift spending or needing new tires, you create budget categories for these things and set aside a small amount each month.
Like $50 a month towards holiday gifts or $20 towards car maintenance.
Exactly. You're saving for them gradually, so when the expense hits, the money is already there allocated. It smooths out those lumpy costs and prevents them from wrecking your monthly budget.
That's really clever. It takes the stress out of those big hits.
It really does. And of course, always prioritize your big financial goals within the budget structure. Have clear categories for retirement savings, maybe a house down payment fund, kids' education. Make funding those a non-negotiable part of your allocation process.
Keep your eye on the prize.
And finally, find the system, the tools, the routine that genuinely works for you and makes this process as painless as possible. Whether it's an app, a spreadsheet, digital envelopes, consistency is easier when the system fits your style.
Okay, so maintaining it is about regular reviews, planning ahead for inflation and big costs via sinking funds, prioritizing goals, and using the right tools. Makes sense. What about moving beyond just budgeting, building wealth?
That's the natural next step once ZBB gives you that solid control and awareness. The sources definitely touch on this. First step is usually building that financial cushion.
The emergency fund.
Exactly. Establish it first. Aim for that 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, kept somewhere safe and easily accessible, but maybe not too accessible, like a high-yield savings account. That fund protects your ZBB plan and your long-term goals from being derailed by unexpected events. Like that car repair example, the emergency fund handles it, not your budget categories.
Got it. Cushion first. Then what?
Automate your savings and investments. Once you know from your ZBB how much you can allocate to savings or investing each month, set up automatic transfers.
Pay yourself first?
Right. Have that money move automatically on payday to your savings account, your retirement account, your investment account. It makes consistent saving effortless.
Takes the willpower out of it.
Pretty much. And once that emergency fund is solid, start exploring investment opportunities. This is where you can really start building wealth long-term. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds.
Might be time to talk to a financial advisor.
Could be a good idea, especially if you're unsure where to start. Diversification is key. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And understanding interest.
Oh, crucial. Both sides of it. Understand how high-interest debt works against you. Prioritize paying that down aggressively within your ZBB. And understand how compound interest works for you over time with investments. Make interest your friend, not your enemy.
Good advice.
And underpinning all of this is continuous education. Keep learning about personal finance, investing, market trends, read books, listen to reputable podcasts, follow financial blogs. The more you know, the better decisions you'll make.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground based on these sources. What's the big picture takeaway on zero-based budgeting?
I think the main thing is that it offers truly transformative potential. It shifts you from being a passive observer of your finances to being the active director. It's about control and intentionality.
And the key benefits that drive that transformation are
enhanced financial awareness. You finally see exactly where your money goes and uncover those hidden spending habits, like impulse buys.
right. Strategic expense management, you're forced to justify every dollar, aligning spending with value.
Which leads directly to accelerated debt reduction and increased savings, because you find those extra dollars and give them specific, productive jobs.
Plus, that surprising flexibility to adapt to life's changes since you reset the plan regularly.
And finally, truly goal-oriented budgeting. where every allocation decision is consciously tied to what you want to achieve financially. All these things together build a much more proactive, much more empowered financial mindset.
It sounds powerful. If you're listening and thinking about trying ZBB after hearing all this, it's important to remember, as the sources suggest, your financial journey is unique. Starting might feel a bit daunting.
It might, but the potential rewards, that clarity, that control, they're huge. The sources offer some encouragement, too. Don't feel like you have to perfect it overnight. Maybe start small.
How so?
Pick just one budget category first, like groceries or discretionary spending, and apply ZBB principles just to that area. Get a feel for it.
Build confidence.
Exactly. And celebrate milestones. Acknowledge your wins, however small.
Mm.
Did you stick to your budget this week? Did you allocate extra to debt? Pat yourself on the back. Stay committed. Persistence is key, especially through those initial hurdles. Don't give up if the first month isn't perfect.
Engage with resources too, right?
Yeah.
Use those apps, read articles, maybe find a community for support.
Definitely. And crucially, visualize your goals. Keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. What are you working towards? That vision provides the fuel to keep going when it feels tough.
That's great advice. Ultimately, adopting zero-based budgeting, based on everything we've discussed from the sources, seems like it's more than just a technique. It's really a shift in philosophy, isn't it, towards intentionality, clarity, and control over your financial life.
Absolutely. It's a framework for making conscious choices. And with that commitment, with that awareness, the sources strongly suggest that lasting financial empowerment is genuinely achievable.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. If you really did it, if next month you committed to assigning a specific purpose to every single dollar you earned, what might you discover? What hidden opportunities for saving or surprising spending habits might you uncover? What would that exercise tell you about what truly matters to you financially? Maybe it's time to take that first step. Your future self might just thank you for it.